When everything is going well, you don't really question how you make decisions. It's only when life throws you off course that you realize whether you have a system. Earlier this year, I broke my ankle. And for weeks after I came back, I wasn't making progress in things that I wanted to do. I started to think of how I did it at work as a software engineer. I spent about 6 years as a software engineer in SME and startups. In these places, the tricky part is not the code. It's always about deciding what to do next. And there are 5 stages of the workflow that I keep coming back to, and none of them has anything to do with code. The first one showed up almost immediately. When I came back to Singapore, I wanted to do it all. I want to run this channel, to start a Singapore Outdoor series on my outdoor channel, start a Substack, get certifications in sustainability, tech, and AI, find a job, and finish my trading engine. It all felt important to me, and that's the trap. We confuse activity with progress, especially now with AI where you can achieve things much faster. It feels like you can do everything all at once. But when you try to do everything, you usually end up not doing everything well. Nowadays, the constraint has shifted from capacity to judgment. I seen this problem a few years ago when I was working on the project at a very traditional company. The stakeholders agreed that a software would help to streamline the operations. But the mistake that we make was that the management wasn't aligned on what success looks like. At one point, we were almost close to taking the project off the table. When that happens, we stop and ask ourselves, what exactly are we optimizing for? What they wanted was transparency across operations in the company. Transparency that could help to reduce fraud and ultimately reduce the running cost of operations. The moment we decided on that, it got a lot easier to streamline our decisions. That became our North Star. Without a North Star, every feature sounds important. You can't really tell a good decision from a bad one because you never really know what success looks like. Once you have a North Star, you can start to work backwards. You don't have to do everything all at once. Actually, that's not even possible. So you start from the simpler stuff and slowly build towards your North Star. When I came back, that is exactly the problem. I was not clear about my North Star. Everything that I was doing sounded almost equally important because I did not know what I was optimizing for. In fact, I was spending a bit too much time on video editing instead of taking steps towards securing my next job. I sat down and put a very clear North Star for myself. It is to get into the solutions engineering or sales engineering in green tech, the bridge between the commercial and the technical. Once I have it, it's a lot easier to start focusing. Having a North Star is just half the battle. The other battle is still about resisting the temptation of everything else. In software, one common trap is the feature factory. The team keeps shipping features after feature, staying busy, looking productive, but ultimately it still doesn't move the company towards their North Star. How I apply this is to picture my life as a product. I'm just adding a new habit, a new course, another side project. My list keeps growing and it feels like progress, but only a few of them are moving me closer to my North Star. I just turn my life into a feature factory. There's nothing wrong with having a lot of interest, but everything I do has an opportunity cost. The one thing that I say yes to means that I am saying no to something else. So instead of just stopping at asking myself, can I do this? I ask myself, what am I giving up in order to say yes to this? To do that, I use the Eisenhower matrix. It forces me to think through what actually matters. Most things ends up not being worth doing. The matrix works because I know what I'm optimizing for. Otherwise, every opportunity looks equally reasonable. Once we start executing, it's very normal to face blockers. So there's a very old joke in software. If one woman can give birth to a baby in 9 months, a project manager will tell you that 9 women can do it in 1 month. Sometimes it's really not about putting in more effort or putting in more manpower. When a blocker happens, happen, we always ask, what's the bottleneck? Is it a missing dependency? Is it a lack of knowledge? Or it's just pending response from a third party? All this requires different response. Life works the same way. You can only remove blockers from your project if you know what is the root cause. Sometimes it's putting in more effort, sometimes it's acquiring more knowledge, and sometimes the only solution is time itself. Once you decided what's important and what's in the way, the next step is about execution. When you start working towards a project or a goal, it can be very discouraging if there is a huge gap in between you and your desired state. In tech, we work in sprints. 2 weeks to work on a smaller set of goals. You still might have a roadmap for the whole year or across years. But just for these 2 weeks, you know what to focus on. Every 2 weeks or every sprint is a chance to deliver something, review and adapt your approach. Instead of a 2-week sprint, I set aside goals that I need to achieve for myself every month. And every day I will pull out specific tasks that will move me towards the goal. One example will be my video edits. So in my calendar, I don't put it as one chunk of video edits. That's too vague and too broad a scope for me. Instead, I will break it down to specific blocks like creative brainstorming, rough cut, fine cut, and music. When I'm executing, I don't want to be thinking about what I need to do next. Instead, I just follow the schedule. Once you finish one cycle, you've simply just repeat the cycle. At the end of each cycle, it's a good chance to review what went wrong, what went well, and what could be improved. It's also important to review whether everything that I have been doing is moving me towards my North Star, or am I just drifting away? Because honestly, there are a lot of things that I want to do. But again, if I try to do everything, I might just end up with nothing being done. And sometimes there is one even harder question. Is this still the right North Star? Sometimes the answer is to pivot. There are going to be evidence in your life that's telling you that this is the wrong goal. Sometimes quitting is really the right decision. That's my whole system. These are the principles that I use in my life. First, you have to understand your why. Next, to understand what actions matters. Discover your real constraints and take steps to resolve it. Then break down your goals into actionable and achievable steps. Finally, iterate and constantly review if you're on the right path. Ultimately, what I learned from software engineering is not to code better. Instead, it's a framework that helps me to think about systems. They are adaptable while being resilient. Life works kind of in the same way. The goal isn't to create a perfect plan. Instead, it's just to keep making better decisions as you progress in life or when reality changes.